Yes, we know. There's nothing better than just turning into an awesome isekai anime. Even better with that hideously overpowered MC, teleported from his pretty normal real-world life to that awesome fantasy world where he becomes super strong and super powerful. Welcome back to Animeology, and today we're going to take a look at 10 isekai animes with an overpowered main character. There are so many isekais floating about and quite a few of them with really awesome MCs, but you've probably already checked them out. Don't worry, we've got some pretty great recommendations for you today. But before we begin, be sure to drop a like and subscribe down below for more anime top 10s. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. Number 10, Do You Love Your Mum? And her 2-hit multi-target attacks. Okay, so maybe this isn't exactly the power fantasy anime you were looking for, but it always had us on the floor laughing. Not to mention the characters actually have awesome chemistry. Plus, you can't deny how insanely powerful Mamako really is. This anime is about a teenager, Masato, that plays way too many video games. Sounds familiar? He gets magically sent to a fantasy game, but unfortunately, his mother gets sent as well. I'm sure you can tell that this is the perfect setting for some great comedy. But it gets even better. Although Masato is constantly trying to impress his pretty quality harem of mages and other fantasy characters, his mother is just way too overpowered and overprotective. She is constantly embarrassing her son, but also defending him. Honestly, this is such a cute and sweet anime, and the ending of the opening arc is actually pretty heartwarming and rewarding. It has a really good sense of humour, the harem stuff feels a bit weird, but the chemistry and comedy really tie it up nicely. Give it a watch, maybe with your mum. Alright, maybe not. Number 9. Didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life? This is actually a pretty fun isekai. The MC is really humble and timid. She's also super kawaii, so that definitely makes it an easy watch. The opening is actually kinda heavy. It starts off with Masato Kurihara trying to save the life of a young girl and dying after getting hit by a car. In her normal life, Masato was actually really smart. We're talking like genius level smart. But unfortunately, that made it hard for her to make any friends. So now she gets this chance to be reborn into this fantasy world. Sick of her previous life, she asked to be born with average abilities. Here is where it gets really fun. Average doesn't just mean normal average. It takes into account the most powerful beings to the weakest beings. That makes her like 7,000 times more powerful than the average human, but thankfully enough she manages to meet some very interesting characters along the way, and really starts to enjoy her life in the fantasy world. It may be a bit childish, but it has a great sense of humour and the world building is pretty impressive. A great blend of comedy and fantasy in a really awesome isekai world. Number 8. Gate Series. The Gate series is a pretty long-running isekai manga. The anime did alright, but just know that there's a lot to sink your teeth into if you love the series as much as we did. Gate brings a bit more of a mature and adult flavour to the isekai world. Set in modern-day Tokyo, a portal opens up one day and a bunch of old-school Roman soldiers and monsters come out of it, attacking the city. But our world is pretty superior in terms of technology and tactics, and we easily send them back. The Japanese set up a base inside the isekai world, but all other countries are extremely jealous. They clearly want the sort of access to magic and fantasy technology that Japanese has. This is a really imaginative and unique story. The MC is sent by Japan to go and research the isekai world. There is definitely a lot we can learn from dragons and elves, but along the way, Yuri starts to learn about some pretty disgusting behaviour from our world, and so he switches sides and decides to help the isekai world. The Gate series brings along a really awesome story with some pretty fantastic story arcs. I mean, what a setup! Just describing this anime makes me want to go and rewatch it. Number 7. The Eighth Son? Are you kidding me? This is a seinen, so it's a bit heavier than a lot of the other recommendations on our list. It's still a fantastic fantasy-themed watch, and the harem is definitely one we would all dream of having. The writing is actually pretty high quality, and this is probably the coziest watch here. This story is about a single, normal, working-class guy, Shingo. One day, he just fell asleep and wakes up in the fantasy world. Man, if only it was that easy. So, Shingo wakes up in a fantasy world as a young boy, Wendelin. Wendelin is the 8th son of a noble and lives a poor life because all his brothers will probably take all his father's possessions. Wendelin looks around and discovers he has strong magical powers. He also starts perfecting his skills with a sword. He slowly becomes an absolute beast, and travels the kingdom becoming a well-known famous adventurer. A lot of this isekai is hunting and killing monsters, even dragons. He slowly starts building up his name from nothing. It's a pretty complex anime with some deep and interesting relationships within the harem. Definitely worth the watch, some good action, but not the highlight. Number 6. Marchin Awakens Romance. This is a pretty iconic anime. It's often referred to as Mar. It's a little forgotten these days, but definitely worth checking out. Full of pretty likeable and interesting characters, some of the story arcs are hit and miss, but the overall world development and MC make this a must-watch. We meet Ginta Turamizu, a 14-year-old geeky kid that loves video games and does pretty bad at school. One day he's summoned to a magical world he's seen in his dreams and in his mother's book. This isekai world actually swaps out Ginta's physical weakness with insane strength, stamina and endurance. He doesn't even need his glasses anymore. A great thing about this anime is that it jumps straight into the thick of things. The very first episode introduces you to some pretty powerful magical weapons and straight into some really heavy world building stuff. It's alright, it's a classic. A pretty long-running anime, and there were a few fillers here and there, but it's barely noticeable. Number 5. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. This anime is still going on right now, and you might have heard of it, but it's actually so awesome you really need to check it out. What makes this isekai so great is how it tries to flip the genre on its head. Starting off pretty standard, a man with a boring working life with no girlfriend randomly gets stabbed and dies. He wakes up in a strange world as a slime. That's right, no king or prince or wizard, just slime. But this isn't just any normal slime. Our MC starts to learn that he actually has a lot of pretty powerful skills. One of them is called Predator. It lets him eat anything and copy its appearance and abilities. The general story is pretty strange, as though the slime thing wasn't pretty weird enough. The slime starts to make animals and monster friends. He starts setting up a kingdom of beasts deep in the forest. They treat the slime as a leader, but after a while, nearby human kings, legendary heroes, and even demon lords start hearing about this and get involved. The character development, world building and intertwining arcs make this such a great anime. Honestly, just following the journey of the slime in this strange world and really complex interactions between the characters make this such an interesting watch. Number 4. Knights and Magic. Knights and Magic is a pretty interesting mecha isekai world. Pretty unique, it tells the tale of a young man who dies in a car accident and wakes up in this alien world. It ties in nicely with his dream of building and piloting his very own mecha. The mecha world has a very cool medieval fantasy feel to it. It has a really interesting blend of tech, kings and knights that have to battle these insanely powerful creatures that are known as demon beasts. Reborn as the son of a nobleman with magical powers, our MC learns how to become a Night Runner, an elite mecha pilot. Organising his very own crew, the anime is all about fighting. It's actually so awesome and so unbelievably stylish. Number 3. Saga of Tanya the Evil. A pretty long-running manga and light novel series, the anime adaptation was not received that well. The world building and backgrounds are just really strange, but we loved it nonetheless. You need to really appreciate the seinen that tries to do something different. Set in modern-day Tokyo, a young man is murdered by an angry co-worker. Confronted by God, criticised for not having faith in a higher power, the MC is punished and reborn as an orphan girl in a World War II alternative reality. Man, the story of Tanya von Dugerchaff is dark and very heavy. Like the character development of the MC alone, which is why you watch this anime. Just watching her decisions in really tense situations makes this a must watch. The sort of decisions that Tanya makes doesn't make her a nice character, but definitely makes her a great one. Number 2. Wise Man's Grandchild.
この世界の魔法は無影響で成立する。要はイメージさえしっかりしていればいい。
You don't get much more isekai than this, a pretty classic tale of a young man that dies and is reborn in a world of magic and demons. What makes this MC so unique is the fact that he lacks common sense. Some pretty great humour can be found here. The MC set up a decent harem and attends a magic academy in order to improve his skills. Really great chemistry between the main characters and the fight scenes are really beautiful. The anime tends to get a bit heavy with some underlying political themes, but that is far from the main draw of this series. That S-ranked fighting and abilities, the lack of social skills and that interesting character dynamic makes Wise Man's Grandchild a great watch. And number 1, problem children are coming from another world, aren't they? You can't talk about overpowered MCs without mentioning Izuyoi Sakamaki. This guy is so overpowered, and he knows it. He has such strong psychic powers and is so bored because no one here can challenge him. The story starts off with him taking to a foreign world where he needs help to restore the balance and defeat a demon lord. The manga is really good. The anime is solid and should be seen. It's a really good action comedy fantasy. The world backstory is also really interesting. It's a bit technical, but a lot like those video game isekai.